little bit. We're gonna head into some spoiler territory.
Uh-oh.
Let's talk a little bit about this episode. It was Book of Boba episode 6. So, wow, like where do you even begin with this? Now, like we said earlier, the bulk of the episode really focuses on Luke Skywalker training little Grogu. This was really, in my opinion, kind of a beautiful moment. It sort of is like, you know how they, George, I think it was George Lucas who said Star Wars, it rhymes, right?
Yes.
This kind of, it rhymed because it was Yoda who was training Luke in the original trilogy. And then now you have Luke here training little Grogu, who is obviously very reminiscent of Yoda. It's very much in that classic kind of Star Wars, it rhymes kind of energy. And I just felt that was such a beautiful thing that Filoni did here in this episode with that, and how he was sort of telling little Grogu, I knew a Jedi Master named Yoda, and this is the way he talked, and this is, and kind of teaching him about like kind of like Grogu's like species, and I love that. I got goosebumps watching it. I loved it.
I know. Same here. I mean, absolutely same here. Just, and remember that vision there where it's like, hey, do you want to know, more about your home world? And it's like, he kind of touches his head, and now it's, it's Order 66. You got the 501st, clone troopers just mowing down some Jedi. It's like, oh my God, this is, whoa, like this is awesome, but yeah, I mean, no, you're exactly right, where you have this kind of rhyming that we're doing here. I mean, hell, they brought back the backpack,
right? They brought it back.
Right, so it's like, oh my God, there it is. I'm right back in Empire Strikes Back, but now we're seeing kind of a, kind of a more advanced Luke Skywalker, right? This person who has now become the master now has a student instead of the other way around. And it was a really nice take. I keep telling people, man, I wish we would have gotten like a Luke Skywalker Grogu series, because I mean I could just watch this for hours. It was really, really great.
It was great storytelling. And here's the thing too, and to kind of give an idea on how much the technology has really progressed even since season 2 of Mando. When I saw that finale with the Luke Skywalker cameo, I thought that was epic. I thought that was so badass. But I'm like, but I don't want them to go too far with it because the technology isn't quite there yet. Keep it like for the small kind of like just a few minute cameos, right?
Right.
Boy, my opinion on that has completely changed. Completely changed. I mean, after seeing what they can do with Luke Skywalker, the technology, the dynamic between him and Grogu, I agree with you. I would love to see like a 5 or 6 episode like mini series on him and Grogu, or him in like a teaching his Padawans, the Jedi Academy.
Yes.
I mean, I think the technology is there now where this he can carry a whole show. I mean, it looked real enough where they could do it.
I think they could. And some of the best stuff, like some of my favorite series of books from the EU was the Jedi Academy series, and how he was training his students at the Masasi temples on Yavin 4, back in the EU time period, right? And I had always dreamed about seeing a Master Luke Skywalker actually train his students and go through that process and actually see the master come out and kind of watch this maturation process even further than what we saw in the original trilogy. And to see it here, it's like, oh my God, like this is some great stuff. And yes, I was of the opinion that it's like, well, maybe you should kind of like, pepper these kind of cameos in,
right.
But they did it. They absolutely it did way more than I was expecting, and pulled it off, I think, very, very successfully. Right? I mean, the writing was very strong. The acting was there. The effects, like we just had a whole segment about, were very, very strong. Really kind of carried this kind of whole thing, like you said, OG. And yeah, I mean, I would love to have seen like a I don't know, like a Jedi Academy series, right, of him training his students, and what kind of shenanigans that his students get into, and he has to bail them out, and that kind of interplay. You saw Ahsoka there saying, sometimes a student teaches the master, right, and kind of see that over a series. Like, I think that would be phenomenal. I think that would be great, and give it up to Dave. He knocked it out of the park here.
No, Dave does. Dave hits home runs. He absolutely hits home runs. I really loved also how they kind of it gave a little connective tissue to the sequel trilogy a little bit with that Jedi temple. That's the same temple that gets destroyed in the sequel trilogy. I like how we're kind of seeing the building of that. And I think that actually, this is the one thing I love about these shows. And it kind of reminds me a little bit of what George Lucas did with the prequels. When the prequels came out, they were not beloved at all. A lot of fans didn't like them. This doesn't feel like Star Wars, and it was very much it was very much criticized, right?
Yeah.
But then George came. He created the with Filoni the Clone Wars series, and the Clone Wars series sort of took the bones of the prequel movies and sort of put meat on those bones. And it really was through that Clone Wars series that fans really started to fall in love with not just the prequel era, but the character of Anakin Skywalker and things like that. And that's what I love when I see Filoni doing stuff like this with the temple and connecting it to the sequel trilogy. I like that. He's putting meat on the bones. He's giving backstory. He's giving context to stuff that we saw. I think that's so important in Star Wars. I absolutely love it. I would love to see Filoni kind of tackle the sequel trilogy era, kind of fill in some of the missing parts, missing pieces. But that's the exciting thing about these shows, is that they really do flesh things out. And it's not just the D+ stuff. It was Clone Wars back in the day too, was doing the same thing,
Yeah, Clone Wars transformed, I think, the prequels for a lot of fans, and made them into something more properly brought George's kind of original vision to life, and kind of fleshed out not only the prequels themselves, but the Star Wars universe itself. You saw the grand scale of what George was attempting to accomplish with the Star Wars series of films. And like you said, put the meat on the bones of the characters, right? Some things just weren't fleshed out, but in the Clone Wars, you get to see Anakin as the Anakin that we kind of have envisioned from those days of when Obi-Wan told us about him, right? The Clone Wars itself, and all these kind of things. So when you bring it here, I think there is a potential for the sequel trilogy to be vastly improved with some of these series. And kind of flushed out, and kind of having those things that maybe people had problems with or issues with, kind of explained in more detail, kind of restored, so to speak. Because people, I've heard criticisms of, well, we don't know the state of the galaxy, we don't know what's going on in this sector with these characters and stuff like that. This allows you to really kind of explore that. And to improve even upon the sequel trilogy. There is that potential. It's going to be interesting to see where Dave and John take this going forward.
Yeah, no, it absolutely will be. It absolutely will be. Now, this episode 6, really gave us a ton of fan service, but done the right way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it gave us a lot of cameos. We saw R2-D2, which I love R2-D2. I love him. He's one of my favorite Star Wars characters. One of the most badass Star Wars characters too. He literally saves everyone's ass in all the movies. Come on.
Yes.
This little droid, man,
Yeah, no, he absolutely does. It even does it more in the Clone Wars and assorted films and stuff like that. He is he's like the universe saver, right? He's like the kind of this droid that passes through time and saves everybody all the time. It's hilarious how they've set them up. But yes, we saw R2D2, we saw Ahsoka again, right? But one of the characters that was heavily rumored to be part of this Book of Boba Fett series, we finally saw that blue Duro, right? At the very end, Cad Bane, right?
Oh, and that scene, you want to talk about powerful scenes. Wow. This scene was so powerful. It was very much a John Wayne Western, right?
Oh, yeah.
Clint Eastwood Western, right?
Spaghetti Western, right?
Right?
Yep.
It was great. The way it was shot. There wasn't a lot of dialogue. It was two men kind of confronting each other. It was powerful. I couldn't take my eyes off that scene. I love that.
Man, you can kind of feel the tension, when Mando leaves and you just see this figure out in the wilderness and he's coming into view. It's like, who's this guy? Who's, the Pikes are not going to be taking affronts to their spice lightly, right? Or at least we think Cad Bane is associated with the Pikes. We don't really know yet. We don't really know how this large interweaving web works at this very moment. But when you see Cad Bane come out and you see, and you hear that voice and you see just that mouth that is unbelievably intimidating. It's like, whoa, things just got real. Things just got serious, right? And he definitely made a first impression for a lot of the fans watching here. It was up there with some of the great entrances that we've seen from characters in the history of Star Wars.
No, absolutely, and they did a great job translating him from animation, because this is the first time we've seen him in like live action form. They did a really great job in translating him into live action. It looked just like the animated character. He was extremely intimidating. I loved how menacing he felt. I love that tension. It was so good. It was so good. Now the bantha in the room. We can't ignore the big bantha in the room, which is a lot of people are concerned or criticizing the lack of Boba Fett.
Yeah.
In the Boba Fett show.
Yeah.
Now, to be fair, Boba Fett did make a cameo in his own show.
Yeah, right at the very end there. Did he even have a speaking line? I think it was what is it? Fennec Shan talking the whole time. I don't even think Boba said anything.
He stood there. He stood there. But a lot of fans are and I get it. I understand that critique. That's a fair critique.
Yeah.
But what are your thoughts on that, Dre? Like, do you think, because I think Filoni, and this is my thing, Filoni really does. He's a really great storyteller, and I think he's got something planned for the finale that will kind of make it all make sense. And maybe I have a little too much faith in him. I don't know, but that's just how I feel. I feel like he's setting up all these plot lines. He's setting everything up, and then at the end, it's all going to tie together and make sense in a nice little bow. What do you feel? Do you feel like that's going to be the case? Do you feel like this is just the end of the Boba Fett's arc? How are you feeling on that?
No, I think the apex of his arc is coming. Even still, right? It's all been kind of leading towards a bigger moment. It's all been leading towards a war, so to speak, with this Pike Syndicate, maybe even the Hutts themselves, right? But think about it. I mean, if you are to have a finale of the kind of, I believe it was you, OG, who said this kind of end game type finale, right? With this big old war, you kind of have to play some of these plot lines out, right? Because if, well, just think about it, right? If everybody's worn out on the dunes of Tatooine or Jabba's palace, right? And you see this Naboo starfighter come out and blow some guys away, and you see Mando come out, it's going to be like, wait a minute, hold up. I just missed a couple of things here. What happens? And then if you have, my theory is, I think Grogu is going to select the chainmail, right? And it's just, if he selects Yoda's lightsaber, what is the point of all this, right? I mean, I think he is going to select the chainmail.
Yeah.
But well, now he's got to be transported to where Mando is, right? Well, that's a perfect scenario where Luke could be the one to do that, right? And maybe clear up some shenanigans along the way in the process of doing that, right? But if you have a Naboo starfighter come out, blow some guys away, Mando get out, shoot some guys, and you have Luke landing and giving Grogu back to, like, it wouldn't make any sense whatsoever. You have to, kind of plant these seeds, so to speak. I will say, did they go pretty heavy in setting up these plot threads? Yeah, they went pretty heavy to a point where in Chapter 5, you never see Boba Fett even once. that is a decision. That's a choice. But I think of it like the old, do you remember the Netflix Marvel series, right? With Jessica Jones and Daredevil and Luke Cage and all that. There would be some episodes where you wouldn't see those main characters, even if it was their show. You would have to you would have to spend a whole episode on the Punisher, right? And tell his story and tell his backstory and all that. Or, what is the main villain in that? The big guy, Kingpin, right?
Kingpin.
Yeah, Kingpin. You would have to, take some time to develop his story and stuff, right?
Right.
Because all those shows interconnected, and it was important to kind of set those seeds throughout the series. I kind of see this here. I kind of see Boba Fett as maybe a Mando 2.5, where, yes, it is Boba Fett's series, but there is a larger story playing out, and the interconnecting parts of it are very important to kind of intertwine through these series as we go along.
Yeah, and it's kind of obviously on a much smaller scale, but it's kind of like a little mini MCU, because the MCU, part of the success I think for the MCU is that they each character got their own story. So we had a Captain America movie, we had a Thor movie, we had Iron Man movies. Each character got their backstories, got their own movies, and then they all came together in those Avenger movies, right? And I think that's part of the magic of the MCU, is that it sets all these characters up, and then when you're in the theater watching the Avengers, these are all characters now that you know very, very well, right? And and Book of Boba is kind of doing that obviously on a much smaller scale, but they're sort of doing the same thing. They're sort of, they're setting up Boba, that they're fleshing out Mando, they're fleshing out Grogu, they're giving us Luke, they're kind of setting the table. So when we have this big finale, the end game or the Avengers movie, so to speak, it's that much more impactful, because now you've really fleshed out the characters, and now they're all coming together at the very end. It's very much an Avengers moment. So I think it all depends on the execution of the finale, but I think it potentially could be a brilliant move.
I think so. And I think, now that I'm thinking about it in my head, I mean, obviously you're exactly right, OG, but let's take this even one step further. If the series was called The Deserts of Tatooine,
right?
Would it, would it make a difference? No. Obviously it is Book of Boba Fett, but you have Fennec Shand, you have all these kind of, all these kind of characters, like you said, OJ, just all these kind of characters coming in and out. I think Boba Fett's story would be incomplete without these associated characters, fleshing these out along with them. So I'm okay. Look, we all want just great Star Wars content, right? I mean, I think a lot of this stuff is just nitpicks. Some of the last two episodes have been really, really amazing, really incredible. And to kind of poo-poo it just because, it didn't feature Boba Fett. Come on, man. I mean, let's get real here. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I completely agree. And I have confidence in the team doing these shows. I have total confidence in Favreau and Filoni. I think that this finale, some of these episodes, man, like this last one we just saw, episode 6 and episode 5, those are finale level episodes. Those are mind-blowing kind of things. And those aren't even the finales technically.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I can't even imagine what they're gonna do in episode 7. I
I
can't
don't know.
even imagine it.
I have no idea. I mean, I didn't, looking at the slate and everything, I was like, okay, let's get through 6 to get to 7, right? But even 6 was like, whoa, like, can I get 10 more minutes more of that, please? Kind of thing. Like that was really some strong stuff. I have no idea what they have planned for 7. Obviously, there are a lot of rumors about characters making appearances and maybe a certain swashbuckler smuggler making an appearance, right? It sounds absolutely insane. I am so on board. I can't even this series so far, I think we talked about it earlier, episode 3 that was pretty weak. That's not the greatest showing, but even that episode was really pretty decent Star Wars content, I thought. Well executed. Well, I mean, maybe it could be better executed, but just it still throws you into that world and does it very successfully, even with that episode. But like episodes 2, episodes 5, episode 6, I mean, these have been heavy hitters. These have been really great. Among the best we've seen from Star Wars on this medium. So I'm all on board, man. I want to see this 7.